Michael Robinson had moved to South Lincolnshire from Sutton in Surrey in the early 2000s with his mother just after his father had died. I first got to know Michael when he visited my farmyard. He had a problem with some trees catching his bungalow. They were not my responsibility, but I was able to help him. Subsequently, farming the land next to his bungalow, he often used to come out and we discussed a few things over the garden fence. One day he was quite distressed. His mother had been taken ill and she was in Pilgrim Hospital. He hadn't been to see her because he didn't feel safe to drive all the way to Boston. He was a true disabled person, having lost a leg with an accident with a lorry when he was young. I offered to take him to the hospital and it became a regular trip. After a few months, Louisa was moved to Holbeach Hospital and subsequently Michael gained enough confidence to go and visit her on his own. After about 2 years, she was to pass away. I was to help organise the funeral and send pictures to those who could not attend. Louisa was to leave Michael a legacy for a new car. Michael chose a Kia Ceed, but by the time of its collection, he was not driving. I had become his taxi driver and also his shopper. Due to ongoing situations, at the time I was living in a car. His VW Polo that I had been maintaining was subsequently parked in St John Street car park in Holbeach. It was to be my spare car. If I broke down, I could easily get to it. The car park had no restrictions and it was adjacent to a bus stop. The Polo's MOT was due to expire on the 6th of February 2016. With Michael not driving, it was agreed to keep the Polo, so when he started again driving, he could start in a car that he was familiar to. On Saturday the 30th of January, the Polo was taken and prepped for MOT. On the 2nd, I went to St John Street car park, checked the Polo, and then went to collect a friend who had took his car in for an MOT. When I returned, on the window of the Polo was a scrappage notice from South Holland District Council. It had stopped being a taxed vehicle at midnight on the 31st of January. With the speed that South Holland District Council had acted, it seemed to me that somebody was watching the vehicle. The Polo was taken for its MOT and passed with only a few advisories. With the car passing its MOT, I decided to travel over to Spalding to South Holland District Council's offices and ask them why a notice had been put on this car. This is the audio starting at the reception desk.
I've got a gentleman in reception with me, Mr. Paul. He's had a notice put on a friend's car, a car that he drives, because the friend is disabled. Would it be anything to do with you, or if it wasn't, who would have done it? All right. Yeah, sure. Lovely, thanks. What is the vehicle?
Silver VW Polo.
Hello, got a gentleman in reception. He's had a vehicle, a silver VW Polo, have a notice put on it, and he wants to know why.
No, well, I want to know when it was put on, please.
Hang on a minute, he wants to know when it was put on. Right. Where was it parked?
St John Street car park.
St John Street car park in Holbeach. Right. What Jude's saying is it's a public car park and you're not allowed to park on there for any length of time.
Yeah, but what I know is, when was the notice put on the car? What time?
The gentleman wants to know what time it was put on. Why do you need to know a time?
Well, I was in the car park last night and I never see the notice. And I was there at 8 o'clock this morning because I was taking it for MOT and I never see the notice. And then I went to pick my friend up from taking his car in. And then I see the notice on the vehicle.
Right.
So I don't think it was put on yesterday, I think it was put on this morning. Between 8 and 8 past.
Does it make any difference?
Yeah, because it's dated the 1st of February.
Right, so they were put on yesterday. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean to say that it weren't there.
No. It's just an inquiry, that's all.
Right, can I put the gentleman on the phone for you, Jude? I'll call you back on the minute. Do you want me?
The lady was to say that she would find out what had happened and give me a call back. While the audio has been running, pictures of a Fiat and a Mercedes in Spalding have been showing. These vehicles have become vehicles of interest following the council's callback. Here is the audio from the council callback.
Hello, this is South Holland District Council, Mr. Paul.
Speaking.
Yeah, we've just done our checks that I said I'd do for you and just ringing you back to tell you what the situation is.
Yep.
Yeah, the notice was put on at 10:30am yesterday morning.
Uh-huh.
It was checked again this morning at 4am and it was in situ on the windscreen.
It was checked at 4 a.m. Who checked it at 4 a.m?
One of our employees.
Uh-huh. So you have employees riding around the car parks at 4 a.m. in the morning, do you?
We have them riding round at any time.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, we obviously, thank you very much for drawing this all to our attention. We will be obviously keeping an eye on what's going on in that particular car park. Now, if the owner of the vehicle needs any more information, if he would like to contact us, then we'll discuss it further.
So what was the council's urgency? To pay somebody to go and inspect a car at 4 a.m. in the morning. This is more intriguing with the events of St John Street Car Park in June 2017. There, a removal notice was noted on the window of an Astra, dated 12th of June, with a broken and dangerous rear window. There was no urgency to remove the vehicle, and as for it being in a roadworthy condition, it was slowly being stripped for parts. It had no tax, MOT or insurance, and was not to leave until early July. Move forward to 2018, and Michael started receiving letters from South Holland District Council. The letters were to claim that Michael's front and rear gardens were adversely affecting the amenity of the local area. The farmer who had took over from me had let the land between Michael's bungalow and Holbeach Bank playing field go wild. Brambles were so high you could not see over them. The tall elders on the north boundary were also on the field side of the fence, and not Michael's responsibility. I was not in a position to help Michael with the garden, due to an ingrowing toenail which I required surgery on. On the afternoon of the 6th of December 2018, I was at Michael's delivering his shopping when the enforcement officer of South Holland District Council arrived. Here is some video and audio from that day.
Because if you go down Ryfield Lane, have you been down Ryfield Lane?
I'm actually on my way there now, funnily enough.
Gedney?
About a caravan.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. When I lived at Battlefield Lane,
Yeah.
right, and I've raised the question about the caravan at Ryfield Lane,
Yeah, and that's ongoing. We're about
Right.
to issue a notice on that one.
right,
Yeah.
that just happened. I lived at Battlefield Lane,
Yeah.
and the person who's been living in the caravan
Yeah.
put so much of my stuff on eBay and sold it.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that in there.
And I turned around and I said, and it just happened that somebody said to me, "Oh, you'll never guess who ended up delivering for me for DPD the other day." And I said, "Who?" "The person who had your eBay stuff on eBay." And I'm like, "Okay." And I tracked that down.
Yeah.
And if you go down Ryfield Lane,
Yeah.
go a little bit further, look on your left-hand side as you go through it. Caravan will be on your right,
Yeah, I know. There's a field.
full of cars.
Well, that was Chef Perkins dealt with that site, and it was at one point predominantly cleared up, and the complainants were happy. I've not seen it for many a year, but I know that she was happy at that point that it was what it was like was all right, because it's a fairly well screened site, and it's nobody directly looking out over it as such.
Well, when Steph Perkins was dealing with me at Highfield Farm,
yeah,
that was not the case.
no,
It was cars on grass. Hang on a minute, I've just got a few cars on the grass.
yeah, but I think that site was fairly visible from.
No,
exposed site,
you got all sorts of issues going on.
Yeah,
But wherever I put my feet, I've got people complaining. And the last time down Battlefield Lane, he even bragged about it on Facebook that he'd used the neighbour's name.
I think it's just the nature. Obviously, I mean, if I.
In the conversation is mentioned Battlefield Lane. I used to live there for a while. One day a neighbour came round, holding a pack of papers, and exclaiming that this was nothing to do with him. Apparently I had been reported for antisocial behaviour and for doing car repairs. Subsequently, a person was to brag about this on Facebook, that they had done it, but South Holland District Council was not interested in false representation and the wasting of their time. Ryfield Lane's a bit out of the way, so is South Holland District Council's application of the Planning Act dependent on location? In 2025, the cars just sprawl across the field. That would be if you could see them. Thanks to Google, you can. Subsequently, just before Christmas, Michael was to receive a recorded letter, contained within it an enforcement notice. The notice stated what he was required to do: cut back all overgrown vegetation to the front and the rear of the property, and remove cuttings and vegetation from the land to an authorised place of disposal. Remove all untaxed and or unroadworthy vehicles, including the 2 American vintage vehicles, from the land. And he had 3 months to do this. Just before Christmas. This was a nice Christmas present. It was agreed that this was going to be fought, and in January a meeting took place with the council's chief executive, and promises that matters would be stopped. Mid-February, and work was carried out on the adjacent property. That evening was the last evening I spoke to Michael or saw him. He was not to answer his phone or his door to me again. After a few days I was to call Lincolnshire police, who forced entry into the property and found him deceased in bed. They said there was a lot of medication on his kitchen table. It is my belief he'd stopped taking his medication and gave up under the pressure of what South Holland District Council had done. In 2024 I was having time off work for health issues. I left my car that I used for work on an unrestricted Spalding side street. I believe correctly parked, MOT'd, taxed and insured. But when I returned to it, it had had a visit from South Holland District Council. Obviously, I am still being watched and targeted.